The story kicks off with those two school popular kids strutting down the hallway like they own the place, and everyone can't stop chattering about them. Suzyun, she's the big shot student council president. And there's this certified nerd named Kazuki, tagging along as her sidekick, also the vice president. Some folks just naturally become the center of attention. But our main man, Usato, well, he doesn't see himself that way. Usato's your regular Joe, thinks of himself as just an ordinary high school student. The most thrilling thing in his plain life is helping pigeon babies find their nest. Deep down, though, he secretly wishes for something extraordinary. Now, here's the kicker. It's raining cats and dogs, and Usato's caught without an umbrella. He thinks about snatching someone else's, but he's a good guy, or at least he likes to think he is. He doesn't want to kickstart a life of crime over an umbrella, so he lets the opportunity slide. Dumb move, because now he's stuck waiting in the rain for hours. Out of nowhere, Suzyun pops up. She tells him that all students have to scram. Let me tell you, Usato's so forgettable that he was ready to just run home soaking wet. But Suzyun isn't having it. She's thinking it would be bad for the student council's image to let him turn into a soggy loser right before their eyes. Then, Kazuki appears on the scene and lends Usato his extra umbrella. Usato thought Kazuki didn't even know he existed. But surprise, he's actually a nice guy. They suggest walking home together, and Suzyun thinks it's fate that they met. Usato, being a bit of a nerd, compares it to hitting the jackpot, walking home with two of the most popular kids in school. He almost blows it by saying everyone will be jealous of him, but luckily they didn't catch his cringe-worthy comment. Usato tells Kazuki that he didn't expect him to be so friendly because he usually sees him as a ladies' man. But Kazuki explains that he talks to the girls out of pity. Suzyun teases him, saying he prefers talking to boys anyway. Suzyun, on the other hand, seems even more out of reach for Usato. She's a straight-A student and a sports whiz. That only adds to Usato's admiration. And he mentions she's beautiful inside and out. Usato, playing the part of a clueless gossip reporter, then pops the big question, are they dating? After all, everyone in school is buzzing about it. The conversation gets awkward, but they clarify that they spend so much time together because they're on the student council. Usato blushes with embarrassment, realizing he shouldn't have asked such a dumb question. But Suzyun is cool about it. She'd rather they discuss it openly than gossip behind their backs. Suzyun explains that she feels like she doesn't belong in this world. And Usato was shocked. The two of them are totally opposite people, but he understands that feeling. They all stop when Suzyun and Kazuki hear bells ringing. The ringing gets louder and louder, but Usato doesn't hear a single thing. Just as Usato approaches the others, a magic circle appears on the ground, and he wonders if it's a gate to another world. Instead of being terrified, Suzyun looks like a psycho and wonders if Usato thinks they will find magic monsters and heroes in this other world. Usato is shocked that she's into that kind of stuff, but time is up, and they are taken away. Usato eventually wakes up and finds that they are sitting in front of a king. The boys are rightfully terrified and cautious, but something is wrong with Suzyun's brain as she only feels excitement. The king then introduces himself as Lloyd. Kazuki wants to skip the introductions, though, and demands to know why Lloyd brought them there. Lloyd keeps his calm and reveals that he is the king. Both of them are shocked by this, except for Suzyun, who is having the time of her life. Lloyd then reveals that they were summoned to be heroes, making all of Suzyun's dreams come true. 2 years ago, this world was attacked by the king of demons and his army. They managed to drive them off, but the demon lord's power has been growing. As a last resort, they called forth accomplished individuals from another world who can confront a demon lord using a forbidden ritual known as hero summoning. Usato tries to remind the excited Suzyun that they're having a serious conversation, and Kazuki goes all crazy. He doesn't care about heroes or demon lords and is just furious that they were summoned without consent, demanding that they get sent back to their world. The king explains that the hero summoning only works in one direction, so they can't go back. Kazuki still wants to go back to his family, but the king apologizes as they are desperate for help. Kazuki's whining marathon pushes the guards to finally quiet him down by threatening Usato to calm Kazuki down. The king shockingly bows before them and promises to find them a way back eventually, but he begs that these heroes help him in the meantime. Suzyun finally stops fangirling over being ice-skated and wonders why the king calls them heroes without knowing anything about them. A mage named Welsie explains that the hero summoning is designed to select accomplished individuals. She explains that hearing the bells ring before being summoned indicates that they are heroes. That's actually some pretty bad news for our boy Usato, though, as he was the only one that didn't hear ringing, and he wonders if he was brought by accident. Welsie then takes them to a crystal ball that measures their magical abilities. Kazuki wonders if Usato is really okay with this, but our boy is just fine since Welsie told him that he might be able to use magic even though he is not a hero. Kazuki thinks Usato should be more upset, but our boy isn't a whiny little dweeb like him, and he points out that they should try to be like Suzyun, who is overly positive in this situation. She is the first to be tested, and the color of the crystal indicates her affinity for thunder magic. As if that weren't amazing enough, she also has a ton of mana. Suzune couldn't be any happier. Now, it is Kazuki's turn. This guy barely touches the thing, and Welsie is amazed when the crystal turns white. It's light magic, and Suzune is certain that it means he can shoot laser beams out of his eyes. Or even better, he might be able to use swords made of light. Usato points out that Kazuki isn't a weirdo like her and probably has no clue what she is talking about, but she scolds him for having a sharp tongue. Suzune realizes that she likes his tongue that way, and Usato's perfect image of Suzune is getting ruined every time she talks. Well, Welsie explains that light magic is incredibly rare, and few people can use it. Light repels evil, so its power is unparalleled against demons. The bar has been set pretty high by the first two, but now it's our boy's turn. Usato hopes that he will at least have the tiniest bit of power, as this humble kid just hopes to help Suzune and Kazuki anyway. Usato is glad when his crystal actually changes color, and everyone thinks it's a soothing color. But a look at Welsie paints a totally different picture. She is shocked by this color change and instantly drags Usato away without saying a single thing. Welsie urgently takes him to the king and explains that the other two have great abilities. However, she is there about something more important. The king has a good chuckle as he jokes about Usato having an affinity for dark magic, but he is shut up when Welsie reveals that the crystal ball turned green. The guards are even shocked, and Welsie begins to finally say what that means. King Lloyd stops her, though, as he doesn't even want her to utter those words. Usato begins to wonder if his magic affinity is really that bad. Our boy just has to remain confused, though, as the king quickly demands that Usato be taken away from the castle as quickly as possible. They try to think of the safest place to send him, and Usato wonders if he's really that dangerous. He asks if anyone else has the same magic, and there just so happens to be another person. It's a certain girl, but the king doesn't even want her name to be spoken. Unfortunately for the king and his cowardice, this girl barges in, and everyone is terrified beyond belief. We find out that her name is Rose, and she wants to know if the heroes have been summoned. The king was really hoping that she took the day off, but Rose would never do such a thing. She questions if Usato was a hero, but King Lloyd explains that he's just some nerd that got teleported there by accident. The king desperately tries to hide the truth and tells her that Usato is superordinary. Rose asks for Usato's name, and she introduces herself to him as a captain of the kingdom's rescue team. But Usato feels that she is more like the type to take lives, not save them. Welsie interrupts them and offers to take Rose to the real heroes in the crystal room. Unfortunately, Usato is an idiot who can't read the room and asks the king what his green color crystal meant. Rose is still within hearing distance, so everyone is terrified by what's about to happen. Rose asks if his crystal is really green, and Usato confirms that his ball is green. Rose tells the king that she will be borrowing the boy. The king decides that he must act quickly and gently tells Welsie to get Usato away from her. Welsie uses some kind of bubble magic to quickly get him out of there, but Rose instantly takes off after him. Welsie sends our non-hero sky high, but Rose is able to get to him almost immediately. She is crazy powerful as she destroys the bubble and rapidly captures Usato. Everyone is left with their mouths open from shock like a bunch of guppy fish. Rose tells the king that she will turn the boy into a full-fledged healing magic user. Welsie can't handle what will happen moving forward, so she faints, and the king begs Rose to stop. He knows that she has been searching for other healing magic users, but he tries to explain that Usato was really dragged into this by accident. His useless words go completely ignored as the two are already gone. Back in the castle, Usato's useless new friends have just been sitting on their stupid hands this entire time, but they are shocked to hear that Usato was taken away. Welsie explains that his life is not going to be ended, but it's still really bad news. He was taken to the rescue team just beyond the castle town. Healing magic users are extremely rare, and the crazy lady that took him is one of them. She intends to train Usato as her subordinate. No matter how hard Susan uses her dumb brain, she can't see how this is a problem. Luckily, Welsie explains it to her like she's a toddler and reveals that Rose's training methods are extremely unorthodox. At Rose's base, Rose explains that Usato only has the potential to become a healing magic user, which is why she brought him to the rescue team. This will be his new home, and she introduces him to her team. Usato is terrified of these intimidating individuals, and Rose instructs them to look after him. She tells them to be kind, but they appear rather bizarre and introduce themselves. Usato's imagination runs wild, fearing the worst and wondering if he's some sort of sacrifice to these strange people. Rose tries to reassure Usato and tells her team not to scare him, but she herself appears to be the most intimidating. Her team attempts to explain that they are being nice, but Usato doubts they understand the concept of kindness. Rose clarifies that while her team consists of tough-looking individuals, they are not healing magic users. There are 2 other healing magic users on the rescue team, but they usually work elsewhere. It's time to get down to business, and Rose explains that she will teach Usato how to use healing magic extensively. Usato remains in a constant state of disbelief, with every instinct telling him to steer clear of this eccentric group. He timidly asks Rose if he could learn from another teacher, but she disregards his request and informs him that training will commence tomorrow. She instructs one of her subordinates, Tong, to allow Usato to stay in his room and advises them to have dinner and rest. After Rose leaves, her team delivers a harsh reality check to Usato, informing him that he's in a difficult situation. Rose will be personally training him, and it won't be easy. They even suggest that facing hell might be the least of his worries, and they share a good laugh. That night, Usato contemplates what lies ahead. Despite his initial fears, he begins to feel a glimmer of optimism, believing that things might turn out okay. However, uncertainty lingers, as even Rose herself doesn't seem to know what the future holds. This brings an end to our episode. For the next part of the story, subscribe to our channel.